Okay, so let's use our graphing calculator to solve this equation. So I started with a y equals, I need to get rid of that. But so we're just going to do x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals 0. What I want to graph is what I would call the associated equation, like the two-variable equation. That's when we put a y equals instead of a 0 equals. So to do this on the graphing calculator, I want to point out, for those of you that aren't super familiar with the graphing calculator yet, the top row of buttons are your graphing buttons, and in many calculators they're in a different color than the others, so they stand out. If I want to enter the equation, that's what the y equals on the far left, upper left corner is. Select your y equals. You might already have an equation there. A lot of you probably do if your calculator's been used by someone else. I'll just make one up and show you what you would do. Like if you want to get rid of that, make sure it's highlighted, not the equal sign, but go next to the equal sign and hit clear, and it will wipe it out. That way you can start fresh if you would like. It already has the y equals in there, so we need to hit x squared. If you're not certain about your x button, your variable button is right next to the green alpha. It's x, comma, t, comma, theta, comma, n. That's your variable button. If you select that, it'll give you your x. Then we have to square. Minus. Be careful about minuses and negatives. This will mess up your graph at times if you don't choose correctly. Your subtraction key is right above your addition, while your negative key is down on the bottom next to your decimal. You only use the negative if it is the first coefficient. I'm not trying to do a negative 3x. If I do negative here, it thinks I'm doing x squared times negative 3x. I don't want to do that. I want to subtract 3x. So make sure you hit minus 3x minus 4. Then, once you have it entered in, you can go ahead and hit the graph button. It's feasible that some of you, when you look at your screen here, don't have the same screen. Like mine right now on the x-axis is going from negative 10 to positive 10, and the y-axis is going from positive 10 to negative 10. If yours doesn't look like that, we can change it very easily. The easy way to change it to what we call the standard viewing window is to select zoom. If yours already looks like this, you can skip this step, but it's a good idea to know how to do it. But if you hit zoom, the sixth one down is Z standard, zoom standard. If you select that, it'll change your window very quickly. Sometimes that window doesn't work for our problem, but in this case, it does. To solve this equation, we've already talked about that we're looking for the x-intercepts. How many x-intercepts does this graph have? 2. 1, 2. It's not like decimals where I can just touch it and it tells me what it is. So here's how you find it on the graphing calculator. We want to get to the calc that's in blue up here. So it's in blue, so we first have to hit second, and then that trace button, and it brings up your calculate menu. We see the words value, 0, minimum, maximum, intersect, dy, dx, and then a summation as well. Minimum and maximum, those were important yesterday. What do we do now? Well, we have a new vocab word you might not be familiar with. Another word for an x-intercept is a 0. It's called it because the y value is 0. So that second one down, 0, is an x-intercept. So you may select that. It'll bring you back to your graph. That cursor, it's going to put you on the y-intercept, which isn't really what I want, but that's where it's going to be found, or where it's going to start. Notice there's some questions on the bottom of the screen. It's going to say left bound, and then eventually we'll say right bound, and eventually we'll say guess. Very important. There are 2 x-intercepts in this problem. Start at one of them. You can only find one at a time. So move your cursor close to one of the x-intercepts. Okay, I can't get it exactly. I don't care. Go somewhere around it. But then, because it says left bound, make sure that you move your cursor further to the left of it. So I would get close to it, and then I would hit your left button, just a few clicks, just to make sure you get to the left of it, a little ways. Then go ahead and hit enter. It's going to draw a blue vertical bar. There's also an arrow up above it pointing to the right. It's telling you that it's going to look to the right of that graph, or right of that line. Then now down below it said right bound. So go back to the exact same x-intercept and move to the right a few clicks. Just to make sure you get to the right of it. Once you're content that you're to the right of it, hit enter. It draws another light blue vertical line. Now the arrow there is pointing to the left. It's going to look between those two lines. Hopefully, your x-intercept is between those two. If not, we've made a mistake, and it will get mad at you probably, and it'll give you an error message. But now it's saying guess. So move your cursor back to the middle about where it's at, and hit enter, and it's going to give us our answer. Down here it says x equals -1, y equals 0. It better say y equals 0 because it was finding the 0 for us. It's the x value that I care about. I know I got a glare on there, but it's saying x equals -1. Was that the only x-intercept? No, but there's one of them. I also have to give the other one. So I repeat that process now. So second, trace, 0. This time move your cursor over by the right one. It's asking for left bound, so do a few clicks to the left, hit enter. And go back to it, a few clicks to the right for the right bound, hit enter. Oops. I am going to start mine over again, sorry. I hit the wrong button. Okay, so to the left, to the right, and then come back in between about where it's at, guess, and it tells you your answer is 4, 0. So 4 is the other value of x that works. So those are your two solutions to that equation. Something I want to point out, while I've got this video maybe, I want to point out your maximum and minimum. I showed this class yesterday, but while I'm here, just a reminder, I see that this graph, its vertex is at the bottom, so it's a minimum value. If you do the same thing, second trace, that's where our minimum option was. You would choose minimum, not maximum. Now you would go to the vertex, and it's asking for the left bound, so you move to the left of the vertex and hit enter. Move to the right of the vertex and hit enter. Move to the middle and hit enter, and it would tell you your vertex. And I was hoping something like this would happen. Oftentimes, when you do this, you'll get a slightly rounded, an incorrect rounding, I guess, of your answer. I got 1.499992. Your calculator is not perfect. How should we interpret that 1.49999992? 1.5. It's saying 1.5 there. The y value is correct, -6.25. So if you were wondering about your vertex, I showed you yesterday, but that's how we can find our vertex. But I was hoping to be able to point out the fact that sometimes their algorithms, they have to round numbers a little bit, so sometimes they give us an answer that looks close to the right thing, but it's not quite. So please interpret that correctly. While I'm talking about that, sometimes it rounds 0 very weird. If you ever get an answer, maybe something like this. If you get something like this, I just made up -1.73. I don't care so much about what that number is. And then E, and then it'll be a negative number. -7, -8, or something along those lines. This is how your graphing calculator is showing scientific notation. What that means is -1.73 times 10 to the -8th power. If you've done scientific notation before, you know that means you'd have to move your decimal 8 places to the left. It'd be a very small number, which we should interpret as 0. So if you see your calculator, it's not uncommon for it to give you an answer like this. Some decimal, E, and then a negative number. Please interpret that as 0. That's what it's supposed to be. Your calculator just sometimes rounds differently just a little bit. So I wanted to make you aware of that.